So let me ask you, what's the basis? Because from what I read, that the decision was that Virginia, the state of Virginia, has to acknowledge the 5% nation as a religion. What does that mean? And this was put in
what the court decided was that not the state of Virginia, the Virginia Department of Corrections, big difference. Mm-hmm. The Virginia Department of Corrections must treat the NGE, any sincere adherents of the NGE or 5%ers.
Do they recognize 5% as the same as the NGE?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Yes, they do. There's no distinction. In fact, the guards who have been dealing with these cases for years are the ones who showed up. The ones who are complaining about it now were not on the scene having these discussions about these cases. This is, again, most people who have an issue, who take issue with the case, are people who took what the media said on social media.
Right, so that's what I'm saying. I want to clarify what the media said and what the actual facts are.
Right, the actual fact is, God, is that the Virginia Department of Corrections had to remove the STG label off of those who are part of the Nation of God's Nerves or who was 5%ers, God.
So that's a victory.
Yes, it is.
Right.
In Victory Allah.
Mm-hmm. In Victory Allah.
Where Allah was born, Danville, Virginia. And where the first colony of slaves, or the first colonizers, went to Jamestown, Virginia in 1619 and brought the first slaves from the South, from the West Indies to Jamestown, Virginia. Okay, so this is a historic landmark case.
But in North America, though, because the first slaves were brought into Haiti,
in North America,
modern-day Haiti and DR.
Right, and that's what I meant to say. In North America,
gotcha.
right. The first colony in what we know as North America was in Jamestown, Virginia. Okay, and so there's some significance, right? There's some historical significance. There's a sense of justice, right? In that sense, right? Because a lot of our teachings are based on what happened to us as a people. What happened to our ancestors, I should say, not necessarily us, but we're feeling the after effects, right? There's a ripple effect. Yes. And so there's a sense of justice.
It is us.
Right, there's a sense of justice in that decision. But we are a special group of people who have knowledge of self. We're not like average people. So when you say you have knowledge of self, you're saying that you deal with supreme mathematics. The assumption is that you have a mathematical mind. You're dealing with logic and reasoning, and you're dealing with analytical. You're dealing with the higher faculties of the brain, right, to deal with knowledge. You're dealing with discernment and wisdom. You're dealing with judgment.
Just saying that's an assumption.
Right? That's the assumption that's made because everybody doesn't deal with that has knowledge of self. I know some real foolhardy people, right? Meaning people who love foolishness and love to get themselves entangled in foolishness because they're really not using this. So, but on the flip side, I know a lot of wise men and women who really use this. And there's some of us, and then there's a mix. There's some, you know.
Well, go on. Let me.
So I want to get back to the question.
Yeah, because that's what I'm focused on. I want to get into.
So because of that, God, we have this confusion. People haven't been paying attention to these cases, God, even when I was dealing with my case. And we were asking for declarations for God, and we were asking for support from the outside, from a law school in Mecca, and we didn't get none from some people. And some people we got support from. Because some people on the outside were saying, well, if you locked up, then that's what you deserve, and we don't owe you anything, and you ain't the God. And they would had the audacity to disqualify people because they were incarcerated. So there's, like I said, there's a lot of layers to this thing, but for those who were incarcerated, they kept up with the struggle. They were so sincere about these teachings that they couldn't take the oppression that was taking place on the inside. And when they wanted to practice this culture on the inside, when they wanted to study their lessons, and their lessons were being confiscated by officers who said those lessons are gang material. And the 5%ers are gang. None of these brothers were anywhere. Where were they? The ones that's complaining now about it, where were they when the devil called you a gang member?
So what was it? Wait,
right?
Okay, so let me make it. What right. is the actual complaint that brothers are having right now? The complaint is?
The complaint is that the courts made us into a religion, supposedly. There's some other complaints, and I can keep on going with that, but I'm not really going to waste a lot of time
with the subject at hand,
addressing everything,
What I've
right?
seen is
Because
the complaint that is being that the courts have declared us a religion, and the people that were fighting for this, the gods that were fighting for this, were actually okay with advocating that this becomes a religion.
no, that's a lie.
And that's not what has been the history of that. And
Yeah,
that's not even
true.
logical.
That's not
right?
true. I mean, again, if this is all a matter of public record, and in fact, the beautiful thing about courts, right, is that the record that's generated is a matter of public record. So anybody can actually order the minutes if you want to know what was testified to, what was said on the stand, how the case was brought. You can read about the procedural history. You could actually go, it's online. Now, some people choose to read what the media says online, but they won't take the time out to research the case online and get the knowledge. Instead, they're getting caught up in the sensationalism of the media report, right? The reporters from the media that are saying that this is what the courts did. Now, there is a slippery slope whenever you're talking about the religion word. You know, there's a lot of people, they're allergic to the religion word, right? But you say you God, and this is America. You don't think you're gonna deal with that controversy at all? Mm-hmm. We got God in our lessons. We got religions in our lessons, which means we have to deal with the reality of religion. Now, what is actually being said here is the question. Mm-hmm. And brothers and sisters are well within their right. They should be concerned, right? I'm not saying brothers shouldn't feel a way about the case, but what I'm saying is that we deal with knowledge first, right? So we should be wise in that. We should take the time out to research and get the actual facts and not get caught up in our assumptions and our feelings. We gotta be wise in everything that we deal with, wise and civilized. We can't start acting like savages because we read something on the internet.
Right. So now this is what I'm saying. So
right,
giving me the actual facts, and that because it's the Virginia Correctional Department.
right.
Deems the 5% as a religion, and they were. This is with the court decision, right?
It's a little more complicated than that, but that's basic. That's a basic.
Okay, that's what I mean. Well, if there's more degrees to it, let's build on the degrees.
What happened in Virginia is no different than what happened in New York, Massachusetts, Oklahoma, and some of the other states where there were victories, right? Mm-hmm. What is being said is, for one, there's a very profound legal aspect that brothers and sisters must understand what the law says, right? Don't get caught up in the language if you don't know the language. Like, if you really want to know, like, you got to understand the language, right? And a lot of this stemmed from the First Amendment, right? The First Amendment was written when?
Yeah,
some people don't even realize.
Right.
They don't know. Do the homework, do the research, right? But we're talking about, what, 16th century, right? The founders or the framers of the Constitution wrote the Constitution and signed it in the 16th century. So,
and that was during the time we were 3/4 human, so you know what I mean? There's layers.
Right, but the First Amendment to the United States Constitution establishes freedom of religion, or freedom of expression, freedom of the press, freedom to assemble. And there's an establishment clause also included in there where the state cannot qualify or disqualify any religion, because there's a separation between church and state.
A
way of life actually falls within that definition.
All right, so you saying that from y'all perspective, y'all fought the case from the perspective as a way of life and not a religion.
Yes, God, it's right here in black and white.
And so that's what he's saying, like, in black and white. Yeah. Where can you show us that?
It's right here. I'll put it real close up to the camera in a second.
I need to see that.
But before we get to that part, right, we need context, right? Because the people that's watching, they don't have the benefit of looking at the whole case, and there's 47 pages here. So they don't have that benefit, right? But we want to make sure, see, people have to have, if you're going to read the law and dispute the law, take a position, you really got to take some time out to understand what the law is saying. So if you really, that's just basic stuff, right? Yep. If I want to talk about the fight between Mayweather and, what's his name? Help me out. McGregor. I need to know a little something about boxing. Correct?
Yes.
Right? If I want to talk about Trump, I need to know a little something about politics. So if I'm going to talk about a decision that came out, a federal, I need to know a little something about the law. It's just common sense, right? It's logic. So let us not lose that in the emotion. Like we have to.
Let me add on real quick though. You know,
Right.
like the one of the many issues is that we in the world, not just in the prison system, but many in the world are fighting that comparison to a religion.
Check this out. Real
You know
quick.
what I'm saying?
Page 9. NGE adherents self-identify as a God-centered culture. They explicitly do not identify with the word religion.
If Mega did this.